what happened to this place? What happened since then? How did nature overtake it? The most important thing that we always tried to keep was making sure that our environments that we were building set the tone and the feeling for the show, for what the characters were going through. DNEG was the lead vendor on HBO's The Last of Us. When we first set out, we found that there's just so much endless variety and complexity to nature. We just lived and breathed in this world of The Last of Us for a good year.
There was a weight of expectation going into this project. I think everybody knew how important the games were to people. We didn't take that lightly at all. All of our decision making really came back to how did this work in the game? What can we do to elaborate on and build on what already existed while staying true to and respecting that source material? We had huge amounts of CG across many, many episodes. All of it had to contribute to the progression of the narrative.
It's a story about survival and loss of civilization. When VFX are used in a way that enhance the story, I think environment in that sense are very much a character.
We had a lot of crew on the show who are also huge fans of the game, and I think that shows. My favorite thing about our work on The Last of Us is the destruction work we did on downtown Boston. It's a memorable sequence in the first game, and it was exciting to bring that to life for the show.
A great deal of thought went into how nature would take back these worlds. So we used custom tool sets for natural growth onto the environments. Ivy and overgrowth needs to feel like it can actually exist in this world. It was really important that while this detail was everywhere, that it wasn't too distracting.
We built CG digidoubles for Joel, Tess, and Ellie. Those were used mainly for the sequence in which they escape the quarantine zone and head out into Boston at night. We had to approach a lot of these shots in a sense that we were sort of cinematographers.
One of the trickiest shots we did was the two leaning buildings. We did an early post-viz version of the shot for the client to help establish the camera takeover, lighting, and basic shot design. It's a nighttime shot with no key sources of light apart from the lightning. It's also raining heavily, and it's the first time you see Boston outside of the quarantine zone.
We had to find a balance between trying to get the vibe of the game, which was much more lush and vibrant, and try to combine that with this new aesthetic for the show that introduced a more autumn twist.
They travel over a year in this show, so throughout the episodes you'll see a transformation of the environments from fall all the way through to spring. One of our most challenging sequences was what we called the hair salon. This was shot on location without the use of blue screens, and there was always an intention to use the buildings that were in that environment as a foundation for where we would place our CG buildings and where we would destroy things.
For the State House sequence, we added procedural Ivy and Houdini. So we captured drone photogrammetry of the legislature building in Edmonton, Alberta. We used this data to build a full CG asset, changing the dome to match the iconic gold dome of the Massachusetts State House. And for the final shots in the sequence, our effects team blew it all up.
There are a few moments in the show that are pretty much one-to-one recreations of the game. The one that comes to mind is what we call the balustrade deck, or the ladder crossing sequence, where the characters exit out the museum after beating the clickers, and they go out onto the rooftop, into the open air. What I love about this sequence is that even though there are 6 stories up in an incredibly dangerous situation, there's still this sense of relief compared to what they just went through. So you have the open air, the blue sky, and then they travel across the ladder and look out onto the State House, and that's where it is kind of a one-to-one recreation of the game. It was perfect in the game, so it adapted perfectly.
The brief, either technically or creatively, really pushed us all out of our comfort zone and in very uncharted territories.
The Last of Us as a game is an incredibly immersive experience for the player. I hope the viewers of the show will have the same experience.
You can have a huge range from something very scary and claustrophobic to moments of relief and beauty.
Visual effects can be used as a storytelling aid.
This show has a way of reminding us to cherish what we have and to think about what's truly important in life.